The janitor's hand trembled as he held the water bottle, and for a fleeting second, the world seemed to freeze around him. Every footstep in the polished hallways of Dalton Enterprises echoed like a thunderclap, every glare from the busy employees a reminder that he didn't belong. Thomas Harper, a single father juggling 2 jobs just to keep a small apartment in Detroit, had never imagined that a simple act of frustration would lead to a moment that could change everything. The CEO's office, with its floor-to-ceiling windows and pristine mahogany desk, felt like a universe away from his life of worn-out shoes, endless laundry, and bills he could never quite catch up with. And yet, here he was, staring at a laptop that had accidentally become the embodiment of his own desperation. Before the moment could fully sink in, Thomas poured the water. His heart leapt into his throat as liquid splashed across the sleek black laptop, a device worth more than he made in a month. Panic gripped him. He hadn't meant to ruin anything permanently, he just wanted a second to catch his breath and calm the anxiety that had been building for weeks, the anxiety of keeping his young son, Lucas, fed and clothed, of surviving yet another day on the ragged edge. Papers fluttered, alarms in his mind screamed, and the office fell eerily silent as Thomas froze, expecting someone, anyone, to shout, to fire him, to call the cops. Then came the sound that would change everything, the low, shocked gasp of someone behind him. He turned slowly to see a woman in a sharp navy suit, her hair tied back, her eyes wide in disbelief. Victoria Lang, the CEO of the company, looked down at her laptop, then back at Thomas, and for a tense heartbeat, the world held its breath with them. She wasn't angry, not yet. Instead, her expression softened, curiosity edging out fury. On the screen, something entirely unexpected was displayed, a video of a young boy, sitting on a tattered couch, drawing superheroes with crayons. The camera shook slightly, the edges of the frame fuzzy, but the smile on the boy's face was undeniable. Thomas recognized that boy immediately. It was Lucas. And somehow, in the chaos of a morning delivery, the video had ended up synced to her laptop. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe now, because this is one of those moments that reminds us why the world can still surprise us with goodness. Victoria's eyes filled with a strange tenderness, her lips parting in a barely audible breath. Thomas's own eyes stung, not from anger, not from embarrassment, but from something heavier, something raw and human. For years, he had battled the invisible weight of poverty, the stinging judgment of society, and the sleepless nights spent worrying about his son. No one had ever seen him as more than a janitor, as someone who cleaned up after other people's lives without ever truly being part of them. And yet, here was a woman, a powerful executive, witnessing a glimpse of his life in the most honest, unpolished way possible. Thomas swallowed hard, his throat tight. The fear that had been coiled inside him for so long, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of never being enough, began to unravel in the face of this unexpected understanding. Victoria leaned back, letting the moment linger. She didn't lecture him. She didn't demand an apology in a tone that would have crushed anyone. She simply looked at him, really looked, and saw the truth of a man who loved his child fiercely, who worked tirelessly, who had made sacrifices that no one else could measure. Days passed after that moment, yet Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that his life had tilted on an unseen axis. Victoria had requested a meeting, a quiet conversation in the same office that had felt like an unreachable galaxy. She spoke softly, not as a CEO to an employee, but as a human to a human, acknowledging the struggles that Thomas bore silently every day. She had seen the video again, and something inside her had shifted. The boy's laughter, the crayon-smeared hands, the sheer hope in a life so fragile, it had spoken to her in ways that spreadsheets and quarterly reports never could. Months later, Thomas still couldn't believe how much had changed. Victoria had offered him a role, not as a janitor, but as part of a community outreach initiative, a program designed to help struggling families access education and resources. His hours stabilized, his pay increased, and most importantly, he could finally breathe without the constant knot of anxiety pressing against his chest. Lucas thrived, his eyes sparkling with wonder as his father finally had time to sit with him, to read his favorite stories aloud, to plan dreams that once seemed impossible. The apartment, once dim and cramped, began to feel like a home filled with light and laughter. Every time Thomas walked past the office, he remembered that fateful morning, the trembling hands, the spilled water, the accidental reveal of his life's heartbeat on a laptop screen. He realized that sometimes, life doesn't wait for perfect timing or flawless plans. Sometimes, life opens doors in the midst of chaos, in the fragile spaces between mistakes and forgiveness. And he learned, above all, that vulnerability could be a bridge, not a burden, that showing the truth of your heart could summon unexpected grace. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and comment below. Tell us what you felt when you realized that kindness can appear in the most unexpected forms. Before you leave, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if you were Thomas, and what act of understanding changed your life unexpectedly? Thomas Harper continued to wipe floors, but he did so with a new kind of pride, a quiet joy that no spilled water or broken routine could ever diminish. And in the evenings, when Lucas slept peacefully, Thomas would sometimes linger in the glow of the city lights outside their window, thinking that perhaps the greatest lessons in life are learned not in power or wealth, but in courage, compassion, and the courage to be human.